Thank you, Tyler, for that great introduction. Our next speaker is Talib Dhanji. He is a partner at EY, where he leads their commodities market solution, which is dedicated to serving the business needs of clients with commodity trading and hedging operations. Talib has over 17 years of experience relating to utilities, merchant energy, and energy trading companies. He's a subject matter expert in US GAAP and IFRS accounting rules related to commodity trading activities. Talib has a bachelor's in accounting from the University of Houston and is a certified public accountant. Please join me in welcoming Talib to Rice University.
Thank you, guys. Good morning. First of all, let me start by thanking all of you for attending today. We're really, at EY, we're really proud of our partnership with Rice. We're proud that it's happening in Houston. And for those of you who have come out of town and you see an extra spring in the Houstonians' step, it's because because of the weather. I mean, usually I was sitting up here just before just preparing, and Stefan said, "Hey, I'm envious of this great weather." Now, if you're a Houstonian, that never happens, right? Usually it's, oh my God, I almost flooded. What's going on with the rains over here? There's too many mosquitoes, or it's so hot. So I was really proud, but I was a little bit sad because you could actually step out and it could be sweltering hot right now. So just manage your expectation when you come to Houston, Texas. But again, thank you for coming. My topic today, I'm going to be talking about blockchains and energy trading. If you heard my intro, you heard certified public accountant. You said, what is this accountant doing in this room of techies, right? Well, I'm here to present sort of the business perspective of what's going on in trading, and specifically in this area because there's lots to going on. I'll focus on what's happening in blockchains and energy trading industry today, share EY's insights about what's happening today and what's to come. Let me assure you that there's lots going on. So let's just quickly, we'll do a little bit of overview of the blockchain technology. We'll then start getting into some specific use cases. Why is this such a compelling topic for energy traders? And then we'll get into, we'll talk about some of the initiatives that we are seeing, but there's lots going on. And we'll save some room at the end for Q&A. So first of all, before we get into the business of blockchain and energy trading, let's talk about trading now. I lead EY's commodities and markets practice, where we exclusively work with energy trading companies. We work with them on their key issues, on their key initiatives. So we have the ability to talk to the global energy traders and get their perspective and provide our unique insights as well. So before we get into blockchain, let's talk about energy trading now. Energy traders play an extremely critical role in the life cycle of the global energy transaction life cycle. Energy traders deal with complex logistics to move products from different parts of the globe to bring it to the United States or Europe. They deal with extreme complexities around commodity volatility. We all hear about what goes on with oil prices. Well, it's the energy traders that deal with those commodities and the volatility associated with it. Energy traders typically it's deemed to be a high risk, high reward game. They generate quite a bit of profits for their parent companies and have invested in significant hundreds, if not billions of dollars in infrastructure, the technology and the process infrastructure to support these operations. So as a result, they're always looking for ways and means that they can improve revenues, reduce cost, create more efficiencies, because as I said, it's a high risk, high reward game, and so efficiencies really matter. So as a result, when you look at blockchains from a business perspective, and you start to see that this is a technology that not only can help transform your own operations, your own businesses, but also transforms the marketplace. where it doesn't take X number of days to do a transaction. It takes out a lot of the inefficiencies that are there today. It becomes a really, really compelling case. And our point of view is that the case is too hard to ignore. The benefits that energy trading companies are seeing today are just too high to ignore, and this technology is it provides significant opportunities, and that's why they're looking at it. So as we work today around the globe with our energy trading clients, each and every one of them has some initiative going around blockchains. Some are understanding the technology. A number of them have got into pilots, but they're experimenting with the technology, and they're starting to figure out how they can apply it in their operations. So that's why there's a very high level of interest as we talk to our clients. So let's get into now what is so compelling about this that is driving so much attention for energy trading companies. Now, and again, my perspective is a business perspective. I look at this technology purely from what capabilities does this technology give to the business practitioner, to the CFO, to the risk manager, to the compliance officer. What is it that this technology gives that is so compelling? Now, these are known terms. As we said, there are many experts sitting here. But a blockchain technology gives you transactional network. It gives you an immutable database, right? Recording and transferring data and securely. Now, when I think about immutable, from a business perspective, there's a significant amount of effort, technology, that is currently supporting energy trading activities around getting assurance around transaction. When two energy traders get together and they transact, and these transactions happen millions of times a day, they have to make sure that these transactions are accurate, that they have to make sure that, okay, I did a deal with you, I need to go and confirm the transaction. So there's multiple assurance inside and outside this transaction lifecycle that is required. Now, if you could get to an immutable database where the assurance is just one, I mean, imagine the implications where that activity is no longer required or is limited. And so from an immutability standpoint, it's very significant. There's a tremendous amount of data that is utilized by energy traders. And the data has only been on the rise with the advent of big data and trade analytics and the focus on just extracting more value. There's a significant amount of data that is out there that is ripe for leverage. And so while energy trading companies realize the information is there, this technology starts to give them the ability to harvest it. And so while we focus on what are the cost savings from blockchain, there's probably a bigger and compelling case for more revenue opportunities. So as a practitioner, you're really attracted by what this gives you given the current state. Now, purely, the public, and there was a question earlier, the public versus private blockchains is a really important topic for energy trading companies. Energy trading, as I said, is a global business. There's a set market out there where you can trade globally or locally. For example, if you're a natural gas trader, you trade in the US markets, the Canadian markets. If you're an oil trader or an LNG trader, you trade around the world. The information is extremely proprietary. Energy trading companies go to lengths to hide that proprietary information. The idea of a public blockchain where everybody sees everything is something that is very hard for them to digest. Now, a private blockchain that creates efficiencies for them, gives them the same capabilities, is palatable, but certainly this will be one of the raging debates that we'll see, and one of the reactions we get around, what do you mean public? Well, how do I hide my information? Well, hold on, this is about sharing information. This is a distributed ledger. And so there's a very active debate about, hey, how am I going to deal with this? Am I going to have to give up that key information that I use to profit? Our blockchain is going to create that level of transparency that I don't have the arbitrage opportunities to profit. So this is a key topic that I expect will have very significant discussions as we go on. But again, the more important thing is that there's quite an openness to private blockchains in this event. We, and I see several of you in the room, we hosted a working session last week in Houston where we had some of the premier energy trading companies. And we started talking about the application of blockchain-specific uses. Immediately, the participants started talking about, well, how would this work? Who would own the IP? Who owns the blockchain, right? Who governs it? What I found compelling and interesting was when people start talking about the ownership aspect, the IP aspect, they clearly see the benefit, right, of the technology. And so clearly the pace at which this technology is moving within energy trading is very fast. As the earlier speaker said, this is about data. Why is this important? As we're looking at today, and I find it interesting that when people are talking about blockchain from a practitioner standpoint, one of the applications is, hey, how does it help me today? So I have a box, I have a process today. Does this automate it for me? Does it make it better? Well, and that's where you see the pilot cases are focused right now. For example, there are companies that are doing pilots around the confirmation process, the process to confirm a deal that was done between two traders. And how can you use blockchain for that? And only that, right? Now, from my personal point of view, the value proposition is when you transform, when you go end to end, when you take out everything that is in the current process and transform it and replace with a blockchain or a distributed ledger application. But right now, it's interesting is that in order to get the technology in the door, the fact that it provides a superior data element is a key part, and I feel that's why a number of companies are actually more actively looking at it today than just thinking about, okay, well, I'll just sit on the sidelines until something comes about. Now, so what makes a good use case? Now, if you're a business practitioner in energy trading, and there's nothing unique about what's on this slide, this applies to any industry that you look at, whether you are in the E&P side of energy, whether you are in the downstream side or the midstream side, or any aspect of it, right? Think about, when you think about blockchains, think about a technology that gives you the ability to automate something that you are doing manually today. The previous speaker talked about smart contract, this code that allows you to automate something. Think about that, hey, when you do a transaction with somebody and the transaction has specific terms, you've got to have a manual process or something in your system that triggers those contractual events. For example, delivering product at a certain time, asking for additional funds if the counterparty's credit rating goes down. These are all internal processes that currently today energy trading companies deal with. If you could have something that's a quote-unquote smart contract that allows you to automate this, to make it happen on its own, that's a very compelling argument. The second thing I would think about is, think about this technology as giving you something that transforms not you, but your counterparty. So today, energy trading companies deal with, on a global level, over several thousand counterparties, multiple counterparties that are transacting. You need to know whether these counterparties are okay to trade with. You need to know their business. This element of it, if this technology provides this capability where there's a registry and you can onboard them in a second, how compelling is it versus what can be a 2 to 4 or 6 week process? So just to look at some of another thing I would think about is that the reconciliation element of it. If you look under the hood of an energy trading company, there's assurances, like I said, built in throughout the life cycle. I transact, I verify it. Then I verify it again. Then I think about, okay, the product has moved, now I need to pay the company, I need the pipeline data to make sure I pay the right amount. I go back and verify the information again. I prepare an invoice, I verify it again. When I'm getting ready to pay the wire transfer, I verify again. There's multiple layers of assurances built in this process. Now you're wondering, why are these guys doing so much assurance? Well, many of you may have read that energy trading, global energy trading, commodity trading is rife with fraud. Some of the largest cases of fraud have occurred in the trading space, right? That's why a lot of companies, when they think about trading, they're like, whoa, this is too complex. It's too difficult. Somebody will defraud me of the $50, $100 million, and we'll never get into it. I've sat with C-level executives who are they're experts at drilling the deepest wells, at creating analytics that are amazing. But when it comes to energy trading, they're like, this is too risky. Somebody could actually just clean out house. And therefore, this is an industry that has a lot of fraud. And guess what? as a result, lots of assurances. Well, if we can do it in a secure way, then think about blockchains and the distributed ledger technology and what it gives you. So why are they excited? Well, what are they dealing with today, right? They've invested hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, and yet they have siloed systems. The systems don't talk to each other. If they do, you have to build complex interfaces to have them talk to each other. They're dealing with extremely manual processes, but there's a reliance on the human side, which causes errors. There's a big change going on in this industry where there's offshoring, and large energy traders are moving their risk and finance functions to low-cost locations like India or the Philippines or South America. Driver, cost. But you need those people, however, they're expensive, so there's this big change going on. The question is, what does blockchain do for you in that era where, hey, those functions could be automated? And then the lack of transparency. It's very, very difficult to extract trade data out of these energy trading systems if a distributed ledger technology and the underlying capabilities provide you additional transparency. That's a compelling case. So the industry is ripe for this change. And therefore, it's jumped headfirst into this technology and is trying to identify because of these very reasons. Now, these are not thousands of dollars that we are talking about. These are hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars that we are talking about. And therefore, in a high-stakes game, that's very, very compelling for them. Now, this is what you see on screen is the current state of the industry. If you sort of focus on the key elements of it, you'll see that there's multiple players involved. And I talked about these multiple interactions that you see. You've got exchanges, brokers, you've got data providers, there's weather data coming in, right? There's pricing information coming in. And energy traders gather all this information as they transact on a daily basis. And at the end of the day, they look at how they did. You also have a regulator. In the United States, the energy industry is regulated by the CFTC. Dodd-Frank and all the elements of Dodd-Frank have created huge data demands on this industry. And so if you start to look at the various players, you start to see why this industry could be transformed. How could it be transformed using a distributed ledger technology, creating those networks that create more balance, more transparency in the industry, and take out some of those elements that create the current inefficiencies. So this is what it could look like. You go from the previous market where there are inefficiencies to something like this where you have peer-to-peer networks. Now, our clients have been asking us, well, do you have one peer-to-peer network? You have many. How does it work? The answer is it's TBD, right? The industry is starting to gather around how many of these you would have. My guess is that given the number of players, you're going to have multiple blockchains that will be talking to each other. Now, it's a guess. You may get a different answer. But certainly, the ability to get global oil traders together, for example, Trafigura announced, which is a global oil trader, announced that they're teaming with a French bank to form a global blockchain that focuses on physical trading. That's an example of a blockchain. There are other many examples. At EY, we're working with our clients, and our focus area is going to be looking at blockchains in the power trading sector, one of the most difficult areas on the physical side, right? So the industry, as it comes together, will start to formulate these. But this is what it could look like, and what that means is that there's going to be a significant investment in this technology and what drives it, so that the industry can figure out what is the best model for it. And like I said, it's a TBD. But this model, have no doubt, will provide significant efficiencies for the industries properly done. Now, let's look at some use cases. So when we got into, as part of EY's global blockchain initiative, we're working with almost every industry possible. And folks are extremely interested in, let's talk about use cases. There's plenty of use cases in the energy industry. as you reflect on the challenges that I laid out, you'll see that there's a lot of opportunity. Let's look at settlements. We picked this because settlements is something that is not unique to the energy trading industry. It happens in every industry. You've got to compute and pay your bills, right? If you look at the complexities on the left-hand side, the current state, there's a significant amount of interaction, data that is involved. We've got some folks who work in settlement here from energy trading companies. If you talk to them, they deal with complexities, they'll blow your mind. Pipelines, multiple pipelines, data coming in after 2 months, reconciliations going back 6 months, hundreds of millions of dollars of settlements, that have to be balanced, right? The entire industry for natural gas settles on the 25th of the month. You deliver gas through the month, and at the 25th of next month, you settle. Why does it take 25 days after the product has already been delivered and consumed to settle the amount? Well, the data challenges, right? You rely on pipelines, your counterparties, others, pricing information to come up with what do I owe my counterparty? Is it accurate? And they settle on the 25th, but then they keep on reconciling for the next 6 months, and that's how the industry goes. Now, if you say, okay, well, let's start with this. Well, what could I do? There's significant manual elements that could be replaced with a smart contract or a smart functionality that starts to automate. Now, this is where the compelling aspects come, right? Given the different data elements I use, it's a data exercise. It's being done by technology today and individuals. Well, if you can create some smart logic around it, you could create blockchains. What's the attraction here? In a typical settlement function for a typical company, you could have hundreds of people working in that function, right? And so if you can create efficiencies, you could deploy those resources to do better and be more effective. The working capital element of it is very significant, right? So I deliver the product, I've paid for it already, and I don't get paid for 25 days. I've got billions of dollars of working capital deployed in the market today. So what did the energy industry go through in the last 2 years? A huge crisis, right? A crisis around oil prices that put a huge burden on working capital, and significant cost reductions were done. Well, guess what? If you can create a technology that allows you to settle, then the working capital goes down, return on investment goes down. So you start to see how that would be really compelling. Another one is contract management. This is an extremely challenging area. Now, what is contract management? The onboarding of a client, of a counterparty, making sure that they are appropriate, that you can trade with them, that they have the right credit rating, right? To monitor them as you go along to make sure that their credit rating hasn't fallen. Because if they go bankrupt, guess what? You end up with being a loss leader on that. And therefore, energy companies spend significant time, resources managing the contract management function. Again, a very simple application of a smart logic that allows you to monitor your counterparties, monitor their credit ratings. So if, for example, S&P announces that, hey, this company has been downgraded below investment grade, guess what? You find out instantly through a smart function that, hey, that company has been downgraded. The collateral requirements are triggered, and so on and so on and so forth, right? So again, not just transforming internally, but externally. So then let's talk about what the key challenges is. Let's talk about what the key challenges is, right? Regulation. This is a huge aspect. Why is this industry so regulated? Well, nobody likes market abuse. You don't want to pay $4 for gasoline when you should be paying $2.50 because some marketer is out there manipulating the market, indulging in market abuse activities, driving up prices, cornering the market. There's plenty of examples of that, right? Well, the regulators do not want companies coming together. What's going to happen in a blockchain scenario? Well, these companies are coming together, right? So the regulator is going to have a say. Now, interestingly, we met with the CFTC, which is one of the regulators of the OTC, the over-the-counter markets, and they oversee the commodity markets as well. And we asked them, we did a blockchain insight session for them. And we said, hey, what do you guys think? How does the regulator view this technology? And actually, if you look at the current CFTC members, several of them are huge proponents of blockchain technology. They have a head of a fintech group that is part of the CFTC or leads their fintech activities. And his message to us and through us, the industry was, hey, we do not want the regulator to be a hurdle to this technology. We have concerns around it, and we will look at those areas, but we certainly view this as something that could not only solve the industry's problems, but the CFTC's issues as well, because they deal with a lot of data as well, and they have to do a lot of analysis, and if they could use some sort of a smart contract application, that'd be good. Now imagine a peer-to-peer network where not only are the energy trading companies transacting with each other, but the CFTC as a regulator is also on that network, and look at the visibility it gives them, right? So you start to see how, why that could be addressed. Another thing is the immature technology frameworks, right? People are looking at this technology today and saying, how does it help me with my current technology? Well, some of you in the room would argue, forget your current technology. Look at this as an end-to-end process, right? But that's not easy done when you've spent billions of dollars, and so you have to start to look at it even in the current aspect. But there is a case for that. Now, obviously, and we've talked about Bitcoins. There is in the ranks of corporate America, right? When you talk about Bitcoins and you think about, and the earlier speaker said, right, how many of you know about blockchains? They didn't. How many know about Bitcoins? A lot of people did. What's their impression, right? Is Bitcoin something that is for personal use only, and if you are a high-risk individual, so you have an appetite, you use it, but it's not really applicable for corporate America? That's the impression that I was getting when we first got into it. Now, with the industry's investments, with the multiple articles that happen, that come every day, there is clear recognition that this is something we look at. But it will require investment and collaboration, for sure. Otherwise, the issue is that this technology, people will say, well, the regulator is not going to accept it, my peer is not going to accept it, and so on and so forth. So it's going to take some investment. However, we believe that the compelling case, the benefits are so significant right now that companies are going to look at it. And so what is EY doing about it? We've been in the energy trading space. Obviously, as I said, we have a global team that focuses on blockchains in almost every aspect. We're working in the financial services sector and the energy sector. Specifically to energy trading, what we did is when we looked at the landscape, we didn't see good examples of sort of the technology that could help an energy trading company. So if I go to my client and I say, think about this technology, they're like, okay, give me an example. Who's using it, right? We were lacking examples. So we did a startup challenge. We put our innovation hats on and we went to London and we did a startup challenge where we invited some of the largest energy trading companies to come and submit, hey, what are your challenging areas? Then we invited a number of our blockchain vendors, BTL is one of them, to come in and do a startup challenge. And in 6 weeks, they went from concept to actual an application, a demo. And that's what opened up the eyes. And when we talk to clients and they're like, wow, there's something that's happening today, it starts to make the business case. We also have working groups. We know that this technology and the application is going to need collaboration. And from an EY perspective, we're helping drive that discussion because we have connectivity into the regulators, into the different companies. We can bring folks together in a common forum to drive it, and that's what we plan to do. And finally, from our perspective, there's clear challenges, right? There's billions of dollars at stake. There's current infrastructure. There's an impression that's out there. But like I said, the case is very compelling, and as an accountant operating in this market and a management consultant, my point of view to our clients is you can't sit on the sidelines. You have to get into it. You have to get the look and feel of it, of the technology, and you've got to start thinking broadly because, as the CEO of Mercuria, which is another large global trading client said, hey, this could transform the entire industry. And if you don't get on, then you may be left on the sidelines. Okay, so we've got a few minutes for Q&A. I'll pause there if there are any questions from the audience. Yes, sir. Okay, great question. So let me repeat the question. We have the gentleman is a former trader, and as he's experienced, traders make mistakes when they transact. And if the mistake is built in to the database, then how do you unwind that? I won't answer the technology side of that, there's plenty of people in this room or at EY can do that. But that's a key challenge. The key is going to be, so thinking about it, what is your preventative mechanism to prevent that mistake to begin with, right? What would you do today? If there was a bad trade, well, it would be identified either in the trade validation process or in the confirmation process or in the settlement process, right? That's what would happen today. But if it's built in, then I would assume that you would have to build in some process to address those, where you and the counterparty would come together to fix it like you do today. So, the fact that it's built in, it's already it's built in, that's good. Can you change it? That's the question you're asking, and I think it's a great question. I've heard the answers are there, but certainly it's one of the things. Another thing on the whole, the deal capture is the voice brokers capturing the transaction in a voice record so that you have it for legal purposes. What happens in the blockchain era? Do we lose that? Is it there? That was one of the key questions the CFTC asked. So, good question. All right, I think you were first. So.
Yeah, just following on from that, when does data get too much data? You've got data coming in all the time, on meters, gauges, trades going on during the day. When is too much data? Will that just pop down?
It's a great question. Like I said, from what we are hearing from our clients, that's a key question. Now, I will tell you that having been in this industry for over 20 years now, there's more data that industry is dealing with today than they dealt with 20 years ago, right? And the capacity just seems to upscale, right? So my guess is that the investments would follow from managing that. But what's interesting is that the tools are out there now to manage that trade data, right? So in a blockchain era, for example, if I start to get information on a ship, more current information on a West Africa crude that's heading to the United States, can I trade more around it? Can I hedge the exposure to a hurricane that's approaching the Gulf of Mexico for just 3 days? Those are some of the revenue opportunities. So I think the big data question is there, but there's also lots of opportunities that I think would come as we in this industry look for more opportunities to basically profit from it. So you had a question?
About taxation, I understand that trade like oil for gold or gold for silver, that
Yeah.
That's not a taxable event in the United States. I don't know if that's true, but can you comment on crypto? If you trade one blockchain currency, say Ethereum for Bitcoin or Bitcoin for Litecoin or whatever,
Right.
Without taking it out in fiat, that's a taxable event. And how do you think the IRS might reflect that in the coming years?
That's a great question. So first of all, everything is a taxable event. It's just FYI. Whether you pay taxes or somebody else does, somebody pays, right? Unless there's a credit. So, I don't have an insight on how the IRS would view it. At EY, we have a huge tax practice that's very focused on it, and that's something that we could follow up and answer that question. I would view it, from an accounting perspective, if economic value is being created, at some point there is taxation there. And so my guess is that, the form doesn't matter. If it's substantial, if it's material, and there's value at the table, there will be somebody asking or knocking on the doors for taxing. There may be a time lag, right? And we are very new, so you'll probably see a lot of that. But I feel like as this thing grows, I can't speak to the IRS, but when we spoke to the CFTC, they were in tune on every aspect of this technology and where it was headed. So that element will come as well. But we could follow up. I didn't answer your question because I'm not a tax expert, but certainly we could follow up with that. All right. Well, thank you. Really appreciate it, guys.